This is United Network News with Sunny Galt, Calen Gipp, Kimberly Gogan, and our field messengers from around the world. Here's today's real news.
A community-supported farm share program in Oregon, USA is transforming the way locals connect with their food sources. UNN field messenger Sannalee highlights the benefits of supporting local farmers.
Hey UNN family, this is Sannalee here in Milwaukee, Oregon, doing a field messenger report. I'm going to take you along to show you how I pick up my weekly farm share. I've been getting fresh vegetables from my family for a year and a half now, and I pick up once a week at this sweet little florist shop, and I'm picking up for my friend today. I'm also going to be getting my weekly ferment or my weekly pickle, depending on which vegetable the farm decided to ferment or pickle for us this week. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is a new kraut I've never seen before. Thai basil kraut. Look at that. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to try it. We like to eat sauerkraut with at least once a day with every meal. I also on Friday drive out to a dairy close to our house and get to pick up fresh raw cow milk produced by cows who are treated with so much love and care, farmers who take really great care of them and the soil and the grass, the fields. I also get to pick up eggs from 2 different sets of friends who have chickens and ducks. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2 dozen. It just depends on how many my friends' chickens and ducks produced. So there are so many ways to cultivate community and self-sufficiency and support a local economy by just asking questions and reaching out and trying to find new friends and families and community and ways of sourcing food. If you've been inspired by my Farm Share Abundance Report and want to learn more about how to find a similar kind of farm share member-supported organization in your neck of the woods, look up the words Community Supported Agriculture. CSAs are popping up everywhere. I am the Restoration Plan, and this is Sannalee in Milwaukee, Oregon, signing off. Thanks for watching.
Pasture-raised labels on food products have become increasingly popular as consumers seek healthier and more ethical options. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA, pasture-raised means animals can freely access the outdoors during their normal growth periods. However, this term doesn't specify how much space each animal gets or the quality of land they can use. So when it comes to food labels, what's left unsaid is often more important than what you see printed.
For example, you might spot a steak at your local store labeled 100% pasture-raised beef and think that sounds perfect. The image of cows happily munching on grass in a sprawling field probably pops into your mind, right? While that can be true, here's where things get tricky. If the label mentions pasture-raised but skips the grass-fed part, it means those cows wandered around the pasture but also had access to extra food like soy, corn, or other grains. Though producers might say this gives cattle more choice, it's not the diet they're meant to have. So, grain-fed cattle aren't enjoying that pure pasture lifestyle we envision. And that's something to think about.
So, labels are one of those things you have to kind of take the good with the bad. Like you can't be, I think myself and probably a lot of other folks within the pasture poultry community would say, we don't need no stinking labels, right? We've got a connection to the consumer, and that's what counts. And in that scenario, the label is just changed. It's in a different place, right? It's in personal face-to-face communications. But when you're shopping a store shelf and you're looking for products, eggs or meat or something like that, you expect that label to convey a certain amount of information to you about what you're looking for. And in that way, it becomes very important, because it is a part of the story that chicken is telling, for example.
What about chickens? Does the pasture-raised label mean they get to roam freely under the sun? Well, not exactly. While pasture-raised chickens do have outdoor access, the label doesn't say anything about the quality or size of their outdoor space. So even if they're called pasture-raised, they might not have enough room to really roam around and do chicken things like scratching and pecking. Plus, some farms might still keep the chickens indoors, only letting them outside for a limited amount of time each day.
The term pasture-raised has nothing to do with what the chicken or the cow ate. Pasture-raised has everything to do with where the animal was raised. So pasture-raised just means that the animal can have access to pasture. So they're going to get access to the grass, they're going to get access to the bugs. In terms of chickens, they're going to get bugs and worms and things like that. But that has nothing to do with what they could eat. They can still be fed corn and soy and other grains. Pasture-raised organic just means that supplemental feed, those grains are organic, USDA organic. Now, ideally, what you would want to look for is pasture-raised, corn and soy free. So that means the chicken was out in pasture, so it's very humane. They're out there up to 108 square feet per hen, but they also were not fed corn and soy. All they had access to were the bugs, was the grass, were the worms. So that's ideal in terms of nutritional quality for the egg and the best conditions for the chicken.
Also, there's an ongoing debate on what counts as pastured poultry. Does it only include setups where chickens roam on fresh grass and mobile coops? Or can it refer to big barns with outdoor access? Critics of larger operations argue the birds rarely go outside, even with doors available. On the other hand, bigger farms claim mobile coops expose chickens to harsh weather all year. Some people think the USDA or the Food and Drug Administration should define pasture-raised poultry to help clear up consumer confusion. But there's concerns it might end up favoring big companies. We've seen definitions get stretched before, like when the grass-fed label was redefined to include corn stalks. Truly grass-fed producers are still rare.
It's a problem, and it's been a problem for a long time. A couple of years ago, USDA, I think it was 2019, beginning of 2020, they published label guidelines for FSIS, their Food Safety Inspection Service, that basically made pasture raised the equivalent of, and synonymous, it was the term they used, synonymous with free range. So pasture raised, free range are synonymous terms in their eyes. And what that really did is it really watered down the difference that pasture raised was, right? We believe strongly that there is a difference in those terms. They're raised differently. Consumers have different expectations. And so there are some of the problems you get when you get into labeling at the federal level, and you bring all the commercial poultry people into the game because they want to capitalize really on the premium without really transforming their model.
So it seems the term pasture-raised isn't strictly regulated, allowing for significant variations in how it's applied. Animals labeled as pasture-raised may only spend a fraction of their lives outdoors, or the pastures might not be as ideal as consumers imagine. In some cases, the conditions may be similar to those of animals raised in more conventional systems. As a result, consumers who trust these labels might unknowingly support systems that fall short of their expectations for animal welfare and sustainable farming. While a pasture-raised label might suggest better living conditions than conventional farming, it's worth digging a bit deeper into the specific farm or company practices. Another thing to keep in mind is the certification process. Some farms might follow stricter rules for pasture raising, while others may simply label their products as such without a third-party verification. Rather than wait on the government to take action and figure all of this out, the American Grass-Fed Association, or AGA, and others are working on creating their own standards.
American Grass-Fed Association is going to announce a standard, a voluntary standard for pasture-raised poultry. Now, we worked with AGA in conjunction to collaborate and to create those standards. On pasture is important, not just access, but on pasture, majority of the time. And something green, something vegetative, has roots, very, very important. But we also believe the movement is important because it's the movement that enables the whole system to kind of work and move those birds across the farm to get fertilization and stuff where it needs to be to help protect the pasture from being overrun, denuded, over nutrient, all those things that are bad for the pasture. Movement helps, and it helps the birds because a lot of our customers, a lot of our producers don't really subscribe to the idea of a lot of antibiotics, right? They want to keep those pharmaceuticals out of their production model, and when you're constantly moving your birds, whether it's maybe layers every couple of days or meat birds every day, when you're constantly moving them to new areas of the pasture, you're moving them from their waste, from the things that stand a good chance of making them sick.
Raising animals on pasture takes a lot of work, but it's worth it because the nutrients from the green grass end up in the meat and eggs you eat. Real pasture-raised products taste better, and they are healthier. For example, the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association says pasture-raised chicken and eggs have significantly more omega-3 fatty acids and vitamins A and E, while having less saturated fat compared to those raised without pasture.
Yeah, well, the first thing you have to think about is disease. Where's disease going to form? Is it going to form where you've got fresh flowing air, lots of sunshine, not being on the manure 24/7, being pulled off that in a portable chicken shelter, for example, on pasture, or poultry netting like we've done before where we move it quite frequently? So my biggest concern is disease. Are animals going to die? More likely in a confined house, then yeah. So a pasture raised is going to be better because the animal itself is healthier. They're less prone to have diseases. And for the people operating these disgusting type of chicken houses or whatever, they're more susceptible to some disease that can be passed on to them. So I think of that way. I also think that chickens that are eating fresh grass, because 15% of their diet will come from grass. They're omnivores. They prefer grain, they prefer meat, but they're going to peck at the grass and eat it. So now they're having a more balanced diet. Pasture-raised, farmers that raise chickens pasture-raised, they care so much about doing it pasture-raised to begin with, which is way more manual labor. They're going to go above and beyond and get them better feed most of the time because they have a regenerative mindset. Why would you buy really poor quality feed if you're doing pasture raised? You might as well just put them in a bar like everybody else is doing. So they're probably feeding them better feed. So if it's pasture raised, pasture finished, organic, non-GMO, that's a really, really good starting point for the chickens because now you're not taking in those chemicals in your body as well. It's no different than eating an apple that's been sprayed with pesticides than eating a chicken that's had harmful chemicals go through their system. It's the same thing. You eat it in an apple, you eat it in a chicken breast. I don't see a difference in that because you get the poor quality and less nutrients either way. An organic chicken has more nutrients than a non-organic chicken. It's just the way it is. Same with any type of fruit or vegetable.
It's essential for consumers to educate themselves and check out farm practices. Taking farm tours and doing some online research can really help provide clarity. Recently, the Food Safety and Inspection Service, which is an agency of the USDA, released a new guide on labeling meat and poultry products. This guide offers clear rules and standard terms, so consumers get accurate information about what they buy. It includes new requirements for nutrition facts, ingredient lists, and origin labels to boost transparency and safety. By matching these measures with current health standards and research, the guide aims to help consumers make informed choices and trust the quality and safety of meat and poultry in stores.
The updated guide is open for public comment until November 12th, 2024. And now's the time for anyone who wants honest meat and poultry labeling to share their opinions with the USDA. For those wishing to submit comments, the website regulations.gov offers several submission methods. Early indications show strong public support, but the final result will depend on active participation during this period. Advocates remind us that for real change to stick, people need to stay engaged and make sure these new guidelines are put into practice.
As solar farms around the world get older, they face issues like losing efficiency and structural problems if not properly maintained. UNN Field Messenger John looks into the situation at the Singleton Solar Farm in Australia.
Hello, my name is John Gruen, reporting for United Network News from Singleton, Australia. Singleton is west of Newcastle. Newcastle's on the coast, on the east coast of Australia, and I'm roughly 100 kilometres inland from there. Today I'd like to take you for a look at Singleton's ageing solar farm to show you what sustainable renewable looks like after about 24 years. So this farm is situated around 4 kilometres outside of Singleton. It's located on 2.75 hectares or 7 acres of farmland. It was constructed back in 1998 and 99 as part of the 2000 Sydney Olympics, and stands, to my way of thinking, as a testament to the challenges of maintaining ageing solar infrastructure. As one of the largest solar farms in Australia at the time, this 407 kilowatt array has since fallen into disrepair and serves as a cautionary tale for the renewable energy industry. So this drone footage I captured a few days ago reveals the extent of the solar farm's damage and deterioration. You'll see damaged and cracked solar panels, missing solar panels, most of them likely manufactured in China, because everything you can buy in Australia seems to be made in China, no longer produce electricity efficiently. And the land beneath the panels is largely barren. It used to be farmland, but now we only see weeds really thriving in the neglected environment. In June of 22, the Singleton Solar Farm was sold by power distributor Ausgrid to a local, I think local family-owned business I won't name, and the new owner plans to refurbish the ageing infrastructure and expand the existing 2.75 hectare, 7 acre site. Food for thought. Thank you for listening, and signing off from Singleton, my name is John. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Disagreements are inevitable in relationships, but they don't have to be destructive. What if there was a quick way to de-escalate conflict so it doesn't result in even more problems? There is, and now there's a study to back it up. It's called the 5-second rule. I recently sat down with Patrick Wanis, a behavioral specialist, to learn how it works. All right, so today we're talking about relationships, specifically not wanting to get conversations out of control. And Patrick is joining us today. Patrick, welcome to UNN. Thanks so much for being with us. So Patrick, I know you've blogged about this. So the 5-second rule when it comes to relationships. I'm very intrigued by this because, like I said, no matter how much we like the person that we're talking to, sometimes we're really passionate and conversations can get out of control, and that can lead to a lot of issues. So let's first explain what this 5-second rule is.
So what we've noticed in relationships, and I'm sure you already know this, and everyone listening or watching knows the same thing, we respond to each other's emotions. We also respond to each other's aggression. So if I'm being aggressive to you, it's most likely you're going to be aggressive in response. You use the word passion, but we also need to distinguish that from anger. So it's easy to start with passion and then turn to anger. But the point being that we also have something known as the violence escalation cycle. And that means that if I'm aggressive to you, you're aggressive back, then I escalate that aggression even further, and it keeps going up and up. What started off as perhaps a very small minor argument has now turned into something very big. And not only is our body responding, but we're shutting down mentally. We can't think clearly, and we're now going right off topic, and we're bringing up the past, and we're now attacking our partner rather than addressing the actual issue.
Yeah, that's right. So what does the 5-second rule, how does that address those situations?
You're going to say, isn't this so obvious? It is obvious, and yet very few people do it, which is you're now in the middle of it, or you're starting. If you can become aware that either you, your body is responding, or the other person, your partner, is responding aggressively, or there's some intense level of emotion, you take a 5-second pause. Again, this is obvious, and yet if it is so obvious, why don't we do it? Because we get caught up in the emotion. And if you're able to remind yourself, and I'll tell you how to do this in a second, but if you're able to remind yourself to stop, to pause for 5 seconds, gives you a chance to use your prefrontal cortex to say, wait a minute, what do I really want here? What do I really want to do? And it's not to punish the other person. It's not to be aggressive in response. It's to achieve some other objective. And the most important thing here is, well, okay, so if your partner, you and your partner both understand the 5-second rule, how do you implement it when you're right in the middle of that intense emotion, which usually means you're out of control?
Yeah.
You just create a word that you both agree to, and it could be Big Bear, Big Ben, Benji, any word that you like, something that suddenly does what we refer to as break state. So if it was something hilarious like orange sun or ripe orange, and immediately you both have agreed that this is the word, and it's going to say ripe orange, we go, oh, let's stop.
Right.
And even if you just turn to the side or turn away for 5 seconds and then turn back, it makes a huge difference. Now, something else that I didn't really mention in the article is, and I've noticed this with myself, it's very hard to be angry at a partner or anyone if I look them in the eyes.
Yes.
Particularly if it's a romantic relationship, because it tends to soften us. Whereas what we do is we just get so angry that we're no longer even looking at them, we don't see them. But again, various studies showed that whether it was 5-second pause, 10-second pause, or 15-second pause, they all work the same. So you only need 5 seconds.
Yeah. You're right. Looking into someone's eyes, they say the eyes are the window to the soul. And it just kind of, it breaks that, I don't even know what to call it, that
it alters
spiral.
Your state.
Yeah.
It can alter your state. I notice
Yes.
that sometimes if I'm sulking, which is obviously not a mature response, but it happens.
Yeah.
I just have to tell my close friends, look, if I sulk, if I go like this and you notice I'm not looking at you and I'm like this, make me look at you, and it changes everything.
It does.
May not work for everyone, but try it. Because you've got two techniques now. You've got the 5-second rule. You've also got try looking your partner in the eyes. As long as you're not the kind of person who gets really, really angry and then looks in their eyes to punish them. But that's usually a different level.
Yeah, yeah. And that's purposeful. Like that's intentional, right? To try to really get at them. So you mentioned this is based on a study. Let's just talk about that just for a second. I was really surprised that people hadn't studied this before, but this was kind of groundbreaking when it came out, wasn't it?
Well, it was. And the thing is that we usually get pretty disappointed when we hear about scientific studies that are studying the obvious. But the 5-second rule wasn't the actual intention.
Okay.
They brought together about 81 couples of various ages, and they did over 6,000 trials. And they were basically getting them to get to this point where they're aggressive with each other or they're in escalating emotions. And they gave them the opportunity to say, okay, if you win, you can blast a loud noise in your partner's headphones, which means, in other words, you feel you've won and your partner's lost, you can punish them. And what they found was, well, wait a minute. This was by accident. If they gave someone this person a 5-second pause, a 10-second pause, or a 15-second pause, it changed everything. Suddenly they didn't want to blast that noise in their partner's headphones. They didn't want to hurt or punish or get them to feel the same level of intense emotion or intense pain for their partner. So again, all this says to us is when we're triggered per se, and the emotions rise up, our body responds, and usually we're in a fight or flight response, and we either want to protect ourselves, or we want to defend ourselves, or we want to affect, we want to punish. Yeah. That 5-second break simply gives you a chance to connect more to your prefrontal cortex, to say, hold on, what I'm about to do is really bad, or the outcome will be really bad.
Every disagreement is an opportunity to learn more about each other and to grow from the experience. Remember, healthy relationships aren't defined by the absence of conflict, but by how you handle it.
UNN Field Messenger Calen from Hampshire, USA, reports observing unusual late-blooming flowers in her yard. She wonders if this anomaly could be attributed to environmental changes she has heard about.
Hello, this is Karen, reporting from United News Network from Milford, New Hampshire. And I just wanted to show you some things in my area that are not typically normal for this time of year. Here we have hostas, which are usually only blooming in the summer. And I have a few other interesting flowers that are blooming now that I want to show you. Here we have mums that normally bloom at this time of year. But we also have a rose that recently bloomed, which is not typical at all at this time. And I have one other flower that I want to show you. But here is my hibiscus bush, which has blooms just coming out. And we have many actually, that should be blooming shortly. And again, very unusual for this time of year.
Now it's your turn. Join our weekly meetings and become a field messenger. More information is available at our website, unitednetwork.earth. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.